In the ancient forges of the East, a whisper of metal against stone gave birth to legend. Blades of impossible strength and beauty, adorned with patterns that seemed to flow like water frozen in time, cutting through armor as if it were silk. These were the fabled Damascus steel swords, weapons so extraordinary they were believed to be touched by the divine. For centuries, these legendary blades dominated battlefields from India to Europe. Warriors spoke of swords that could cleave through rock without losing their edge, cut a silk scarf as it floated through the air, and bend to touch pommel to tip without breaking. But then, in the 18th century, the shadows fell. The knowledge that created these miraculous weapons simply vanished. This is the story of Damascus steel, a technology so advanced that modern science is still struggling to fully replicate it. What cataclysmic events could have caused such profound knowledge to disappear so completely? And why has the truth about Damascus steel been suppressed for so long? For decades, metallurgists dismissed the legendary properties of Damascus steel as mere exaggeration. But in 2006, researchers examining a 17th century Damascus sword made an astonishing discovery. The blade contained carbon nanotubes and nanowires, structures so small that 10 million could fit side by side in the width of a human hair. These nanomaterials, only officially discovered in 1991 and still at the cutting edge of materials science today, were somehow being produced by blacksmiths over 400 years ago. How could ancient craftsmen, working with primitive tools and no understanding of atomic structure, have created technology that modern science is still struggling to master? The answer lies in the origins of Damascus steel, which traces back to ancient India, where craftsmen produced a remarkable high-carbon steel known as woots. This wasn't ordinary steel, but a carefully crafted alloy containing precise amounts of carbon and various trace elements. The ingots were traded along the Silk Road, eventually reaching Damascus, where master swordsmiths transformed them into legendary blades. The biblical connections to these extraordinary weapons are particularly intriguing. In 1 Samuel, Goliath's spear is described as having a shaft like a weaver's beam, with an iron spearhead weighing 600 shekels. Such a massive weapon would have required metal of exceptional strength not to bend or break in battle. Could these biblical weapons have been early examples of woots steel? In 2018, archaeologists working in Israel uncovered fragments of a blade with the distinctive watery pattern characteristic of Damascus steel. Carbon dating placed the artifact to approximately 950 BCE, precisely during Solomon's reign. The Bible speaks of Solomon's vast trading networks, which extended to India and beyond, making it entirely plausible that he had access to this miraculous metal. What made woots so special was its unique crystalline structure containing those remarkable carbon nanotubes and nanowires. These microscopic structures gave Damascus steel its legendary combination of hardness and flexibility, allowing it to hold an impossibly sharp edge while remaining resistant to shattering. But creating woots required specific ores from particular mines in India, containing trace elements such as vanadium, chromium, manganese, cobalt, and nickel in precise amounts. The forging process was equally specific and shrouded in ritual. The steel had to be heated to precise temperatures, hammered in particular ways, and cooled at carefully controlled rates. Many accounts speak of the process being conducted only during certain phases of the moon, while prayers and incantations were recited. What modern science now recognizes as metallurgical necessities were, to the ancient craftsmen, mystical requirements that could not be violated. If Damascus steel was so remarkable, why did the knowledge disappear? The answer lies in systematic suppression by colonial powers. When the British Empire colonized India in the 18th and 19th centuries, they systematically dismantled traditional industries, including metalworking. The ancient guilds that had preserved woots production knowledge for centuries were broken up, their techniques outlawed, their masters often imprisoned or executed. This wasn't merely cultural destruction, but strategic calculation. The British didn't want competition from traditional methods that could produce superior metal. More importantly, they didn't want potential rebels to have access to superior weapons technology. The suppression of Damascus steel production was deliberate technological warfare designed to cement colonial control. Colonial records from British India contain explicit directives to dismantle traditional metalworking guilds. A British East India Company directive from 1798 orders the suppression of native steelmaking practices and the dispersal of guilds engaged in the making of weapons-grade metal. The last known Damascus steel blade of authenticated Wootz origin was produced in 1750, precisely when European colonial activity intensified. Perhaps most intriguingly, some knowledge was deliberately hidden rather than lost. Certain families of swordsmiths, recognizing the threat to their ancestral craft, encoded their techniques in metaphorical language, disguising metallurgical instructions as poetry, prayers, or seemingly superstitious rituals. In 2018, material scientists at MIT conducted comprehensive analysis of historical Damascus blades using advanced techniques. What they found defies conventional explanation. The carbon nanotubes are arranged in patterns of astonishing regularity and precision, patterns that should require carefully controlled laboratory conditions and sophisticated equipment to produce. Even more remarkable was the discovery of deliberate doping of the metal with specific elements in precise amounts, all added in proportions that optimize the formation of the blade's unique microstructure. This level of precision metallurgy should have been impossible without modern analytical tools. The most significant breakthrough came in 2015, when researchers at Dresden University identified specific crystalline structures in authentic Damascus blades that had never been observed in any other historical steel. These same structures are now being engineered in the most advanced high-performance steels for aerospace and military applications. In 2022, another breakthrough occurred. A previously untranslated 16th century manuscript was discovered in Turkey, purporting to contain complete instructions for creating true Damascus steel. When metallurgists worked with historians to decode the seemingly mystical instructions, they found something astonishing. The prayers to be recited during forging were of specific lengths, providing precise timing for critical temperature phases. References to steel needing to be the color of the setting sun corresponded exactly to temperatures now known to be necessary for forming the blade's unique crystalline structures. What had been dismissed as superstition was sophisticated encoding of precise technical knowledge. This revelation transforms our understanding of how knowledge can be preserved across generations. What appears to modernize as mysticism may be sophisticated technical knowledge encoded in forms that could be accurately remembered and passed down through oral tradition. In 2023, these fragments began coming together. A metallurgist working with traditional blacksmiths in rural Syria discovered that their seemingly superstitious forging rituals contained encoded knowledge about critical aspects of Damascus steel production. When combined with modern scientific understanding, the result was a blade with properties remarkably similar to historical Damascus steel. This represents not just recovery of lost technology, but vindication of alternative knowledge systems that operate on principles different from modern Western science. Sometimes, practical knowledge comes first, with theoretical understanding following centuries later. The story of Damascus steel reveals the cyclical nature of human knowledge, how wisdom can be gained, lost, and rediscovered across centuries. It challenges our linear narrative of progress, suggesting instead that human history moves in spirals, sometimes returning to insights glimpsed long ago, only to develop them further with new understanding. The recreation of Damascus steel has required multiple approaches: empirical craft knowledge preserved in family traditions, textual knowledge recovered from ancient manuscripts, and theoretical understanding provided by modern materials science. No single approach would have been sufficient. It is in their synthesis that the lost art is being reborn. As we hold a recreated Damascus blade, watching light play across its rippling patterns like water frozen in time, we're reminded that knowledge can take many forms. There are multiple paths to discovery, and what appears to be superstition to one culture may be sophisticated encoded knowledge to another. The Damascus steel story serves as both warning and inspiration. It shows how easily accumulated wisdom can be lost through deliberate suppression, but also how fragments of knowledge can survive and eventually resurface. The light of knowledge cannot be extinguished forever. It will always find a way to break free and illuminate the path ahead. The true legacy of Damascus steel isn't the blades themselves, magnificent though they are, but the wisdom they embody. a wisdom that speaks across millennia, reminding us that human achievement can take many forms, that traditional knowledge deserves respect rather than dismissal, and that the collaboration between ancient wisdom and modern science can unlock secrets thought lost forever. The adventure may be drawing to a close, but the journey is far from over. In the story of Damascus steel, we glimpse the essence of what it means to be human, our capacity to create objects of both beauty and power, our ability to encode knowledge in forms that survive the ravages of time, and our potential to recover what was lost and build upon it anew. If this journey stirred your curiosity, if it made you question what you thought you knew, then welcome to the Adventures Past community. We dig through time, decode the silence, and shine light on what was left behind. Subscribe and join us on this exploration into the shadows of history, because history isn't just what happened, it's what survived.